No, it's not working. Okay. Oh, it's working now. Go.
Oh, yeah. It's bubbling, it's bubbling, it's bubbling in my soul. They're singing and laughing since Jesus made me whole. Folks don't understand me. Boy, ain't that the truth. How can I keep it quiet? Because it's bubbling, 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 bubbling day and night. Oh, hi kids! You know, you can sing a lot of cool songs, you know, about things bubbling and there's, okay. You can sing a lot of cool songs about things bubbling, and we have a great time today. You know, Brother McCoy talked this morning in Sunday school that you young people don't have to wait until you're grown up to do what the Lord wants you to do. Do you know that? There's a little song that goes along with that. I don't have to wait until I'm grown up to be loving and true. There are little deeds of kindness I can do every day. I can read my Bible and pray, be a loving helper always. I don't have to wait until I'm grown up to be what Jesus wants me to be. You can learn a lot of cool songs like that have to do with serving the Lord, right? Well, today we're going to be talking about a lot of cool things, boys and girls. And one of the things, get my notes here, one of the things we're going to be doing is, oh, just to let you know, by the way, in case you forgot, once again, we have virus-free video. What's that? You see a coronavirus? Oh, okay. Virus-free videos today, everyone, so you can know that you're safe by turning in and watching on virus-free video by using your device, all right? And if you're a mom and dad, then sit down and get ready to enjoy what we're going to be talking about today, all right? Oh boy, you know what? Let's look at the Corona Corner today, everyone. Corona Corner. Well, in Corona Corner today, we're going to be referring to the fact that, you know, Adam, he was a pretty smart guy. Did you ever think about that? That Adam was really pretty smart? Adam could do a lot of cool things. Remember, Adam was the first man that God created, and he made him from the dust of the ground. And Adam, the Bible says, had no sin before he fell in the Garden of Eden. Now, I don't mean he fell down, but he fell into sin, remember? He was tempted and he gave into the temptation. That, of course, is another story for another time. But Adam was a smart man. Did you know that he named all the animals? You've heard that, and that's in the Bible. Yeah. God gave him dominion over all of the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air. That's the birds and so forth, pterodactyls. He had control over everything. And you know what, boys and girls? The really cool thing was Adam named them all. Now, some people think that Adam started out in the morning, you know. Hippopotamus, rhinoceros. And by the end of the day, he was going, rat, dog, cat. But no, that's not true because Adam himself was sinless. He never really got that tired. Not like we get tired. He didn't have a body that was going to one day die. That was before he sinned. And so Adam was a very, you know, people think that believe in evolution, they think that we're smarter and we're greater today than ever before. I don't think so. For instance, I've been reading a really cool book called The Genesis of Germs. And by the way, this is a neat book. It was written by a creationist, microbiology creationist, who in 2007, now that was 13 years ago, he wrote this book, 13 years, and in the back of the book, he actually talks about viruses that will be coming in the future. And one of them he mentions is the virus we're dealing with today, boys and girls, the COVID-19 virus. Now, you think we're getting better through evolution? Well, let's take a look here. As far as bacteria, now there's good bacteria in our bodies, but there's bad bacteria out in the world too. Let's see here. One of them started, never seen before, in 1975. Another one in 76. Another one in 78. Then 82. Then 83. Then 1992. Then 1994. Fungi. One causes pneumonia, 1991. Another one, 1993. all these other ones, viruses, AIDS in 1983, hepatitis in 1989, pulmonary syndrome in 1993, chronic fatigue syndrome in 1984, SARS, which is where COVID comes from, in 2003. We're not getting any better, folks. Things are in decay, they're in decline, and that's why it's so important that you boys and girls go to Sunday school and church and you learn all that you can about the Lord. Did you know, boys and girls, I hate to tell you this, but just because I'm wearing a lab coat, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm smarter than you. Now, some people put lab coats on because it's their job, like doctors and stuff, but they're qualified to do those types of things. But you know that even doctors can make mistakes? Why? Because we all have a sin nature. We're all human. We make errors. We don't see things because all of our senses don't work sometimes. You know, and for instance, maybe you see a doctor or somebody that looks like a doctor on TV, and maybe on a commercial, and he's wearing a stethoscope. You know, a stethoscope is used so you can listen to your heart, you know. But maybe he's wearing a stethoscope wrapped around his neck like this. Do you know that me wearing a stethoscope and wearing a lab coat doesn't make me any more qualified to recommend a back or a knee brace for you? You know that? So, you know, just because we think of someone who is in the scientific realm, whether it's even fighting this bacteria, as being smart, well, we all make mistakes. Oh, by the way, I've been working on a formula for making Kool-Aid. Would you like to see it? How many like to see a formula for Kool-Aid? All right, let's hear. I've been working on this formula, and I'm trying to make a new flavor. So we're trying to make a new flavor of oh, that didn't seem to work right. I'm trying to make a new flavor here of Kool-Aid, and I'm running into. Wait a minute. You know the old saying, I apologize for anybody that owns a cat, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these back in here. Now let's see if we can do this. Should do it again, right? Yeah. This time we're going to get Kool-Aid for sure. In all 4 beakers, right? Yeah. Yeah. Don't you think that's what we should do? I think so. I think we should just pour all of them back in here. Even this one that doesn't want to turn into Kool-Aid. And I think we should try this again. Okay. Here we go. Kool-Aid. Yay, cool. Kool-Aid! Yay, Kool-Aid! Yay, Kool-Aid! Kool-Aid. Yay, Kool-Aid. I don't know what happened here. But you know what, boys and girls? That's what happens with scientists sometimes. They try to work on things. Sometimes things just don't work out the way they should. Why? Because scientists don't always know what they're doing. Did you know that one time somebody actually tried to do something like this and they came up with what they thought was a new formula? They thought they had come out with a new solution. And do you know what they called it? They referred to it as holy water. They thought, I have created holy water. You know what they actually had? They actually had dirty water. You know what they did? They forgot to clean out their beakers and things. So you know what? That's why in the lab we use a special type of soap for cleaning out beakers like this and stuff. So we don't end up thinking that we're creating holy water. Okay? So, you know, we have to be careful about things like that. You know what, boys and girls? It's the fact that, you know, people, our senses can be fooled. For instance, it always brings up to me the little story I heard once, and I'll tell you a little poem here concerning it, okay? Let's see here. Has to do with, oh, by the way, here's our memory verse for today. Exodus 20, 1-3. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. We're going to talk about today, especially that last part of that verse, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Okay? That's actually the first commandment. Okay? Or actually the second commandment. And so we're going to be talking about that. I got a little poem for you. Okay? Here's a little poem here about 6 blind men who happened to come across an elephant. Now, these 6 blind men have been blind from birth. So it's not like they were, got to be 20 or 25, 30 years old and they went blind so they had seen an elephant. They never seen an elephant. They never seen the sky. They were blind from birth, okay? Sad to say, but they were. It was 6 men of Indostan, to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind. The first man approached the elephant, and happening to fall across his broad and sturdy side, he cried, oh, he said, this elephant is like a wall. And then the second, feeling of the tusks, elephants have tusks, feeling of the tusks, said, oh, what have we here? A very round and smooth and sharp. 'Tis mighty clear to me that this elephant is like a spear. The third approached the elephant, and happening to take his squirming trunk within his hands, thus boldly up and spake, I said, quoth he, the elephant it seems to be very much like a snake. The fourth reached out an eager hand, and felt above his knee, and said, whoa, what most wondrous beast is like is mighty plain to see. The elephant is like a tree. The fifth, who chanced to touch the ear, said, well, even the blindest man can tell that this resembles most, deny the fact who can, this marvel of an elephant is very much like a huge fan. The sixth no sooner had begun about the beast to grope, when he came across his little tail, and grabbed it, and said, whoa, this is like a rope. And so these men of Indostan disputed and argued loud and long, each in his own opinion, exceeding stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right, and all were in the wrong. Because the elephant is not a wall, is it? It's not a fan, it's not a tree, it's not a snake, it's not a spear. It may feel like different parts of it are like that, but these men lacked what sense they couldn't see, right? And many times even scientists who have all 5 of their senses, they still have things that they cannot see around us in this world, and they don't understand. By the way, the moral of this little poem is, so often in ideologic wars, the disputants, like the ones who are arguing, like these guys, rail on in utter ignorance of what each other means, and prat about an elephant that not one of them has seen. Do you know that many times that's what people who don't believe in God say? They say, I don't believe in God. Well, they've just never seen the works of God. And especially maybe they've never seen the works of God in their own lives, okay? But God is real, and He is going to go ahead and... By the way, I came across a paper the other day, and I won't bore you by reading this scientific paper, but I just highlighted some things. Let's see if people who are studying this virus, let's see what they know. Let's see here. The course of an epidemic is defined by a series of key factors, some of which are poorly understood at present for COVID-19. Oh, they don't understand everything about this? We are uncertain about transmission in children. You know, boys and girls, they're not sure how you guys may possibly get this, and most of you that do don't have any problems with it. You get over it. First among the important unknowns, a second unknown, a third unknown, another paragraph, a fourth unknown. First, we think, first, we're not sure. First, we think. Second, the COVID-19 epidemic could be? I thought they know everything. Third, the effect of seasons on transmission, like summer, winter, fall, spring, is unknown. Doesn't seem like they know a lot here. This plan is light on detail, given the early stages of the COVID-19 epidemic and its many uncertainties. That means they're not sure, they're guessing, okay? So boys and girls, there are some things we do know that you should keep on doing, like washing your hands, and don't cough at people and things like that. But you know what, other than that, it's kind of up to the Lord, really, We can do what we can to be smart about it, but even scientists are still trying to study this thing and trying to figure out how they can come up with some sort of an answer about how to better treat people who have this virus. So we need to realize that we have a creator God who made us special, made our bodies special, like I talked about in another COVID corner. Well, we've been talking about the chronological Bible. We've been going through the Bible chronologically. That's a big word, I know. But the word chrono is where we get the word chrono, or clock, from in the English language. And clocks tell us what? Clocks tell us colors. Do clocks tell us when to go to bed and when to wake up? Yeah, clocks tell us about time. Mrs. Slama, come on up. And of course, the Bible, when we go through the Bible chronologically, we can see, you go ahead and grab this side and go way over there by that chair. No. Huh? Oh, thank you. Hold it up there, Miss Slama, as much as you can. And here is a timeline. Here's a highlight of we are about, let's see here, this is the creation of the world. That's where they got out of Egypt. And we're right about here. We're right about here, let's see, about 2000, right there. Here's the take away. About 2000 BC. Thank you, Mrs. Slama. So there we are. We're at about 2000 BC, and that's the timeline we're at, okay? And so we've been talking about, and by the way, we don't have time today to go over all the things that happened, but remember, since last week we were talking about Moses, and one of the things that happened was Moses ended up, the Israelites had their first battle with the Amalekites. And so the Amalekites, they tried to take the land back that belonged to Israel. And so Moses wanted, God had him sit on a rock. And first he was standing with his staff. Remember his staff, which parted the waters we talked about a couple weeks ago? He had that. And remember, he held it up in his hands like this. And as long as his hands were strong, the Israelites, where he was watching the battle down on the hillside, he was like this, and the Israelites would win. But of course, you can't keep your hands up all day long. They get tired. And every time his hands started coming down, the rod started coming down, all of a sudden the Israelites would start losing. Well, two of his friends, of course, Joshua was leading the battle down in the valley against the Amalekites, but Moses was up on this hillside, and he had two people to help him. He had, of course, Aaron on one side, and he had another man whose name was Hur. Now, not Hur, okay, but his name was Hur. No. Aaron and Hur. Not her. Hur. You don't get it, Dave. These things, folks, we call them, try to remember this if you can, they're called synonyms. Not synonym, okay, not cinnamon, like you put on your applesauce. Synonyms, okay? Words that sound a lot alike, but they don't mean the same thing, okay? For instance, there was Aaron and there was Hur. Not her, but there was Aaron and Hur, okay, H-U-R. So that's what was going on, and they helped hold up Moses' hands, and of course they won the battle. And so that was one of the things that went on there. Another one was that Moses' father-in-law came to visit. He probably wanted to see how, here he is over here, he probably wanted to see how Moses was doing with the people. And when he came into the camp, guess what he found? Moses, by himself, with all some million people, was in charge of, he was kind of like a judge. He was trying to settle disputes. You took my lamb. You took my cow. You took my sheep. Oh, you stepped on my wife's toes. Oh, yeah, and so he had to settle all these disputes by himself. And Jethro, his father-in-law, sat watching him as Moses just sat in one place all day long, just trying to, and he finally came to Moses that night and said, you are going to burn out. You can't do this, Moses. And so he helped Moses to delegate. Now that's a big word too, isn't it, boys and girls? But you know what delegate means. Delegate is maybe, for instance, how many of you have to maybe take out the trash? How many of you have to wash dishes? How many of you have to dry dishes? How many of you have to put dishes away? Yeah. So many times your parents will delegate. Now they could do all those things, but why should they have to? You can help out. So Maybe you can help set the table or pick up things from the table when you're done with your meal. These are what we call delegating authority. And so your mom and dad delegate things. They have you clean your room. You don't probably go and clean mom and dad's room, but want you to clean your own room. They're delegating authority. And that's what Jethro said Moses needed to do here. And guess what? That's what Moses did. He had other men, and he had men that come and help settle all these disputes so he wouldn't have to do it all by himself. Well then, finally, boys and girls, the people of Israel got to where God wanted them to go, and that was Mount Sinai, okay? And God appeared like in a cloud. The Bible says the mountain looked like it was actually on fire because God in his presence. Now remember, God's not a person like us. He's a spirit. So God came down on that mountain, and he told all the people to take a bath and be clean. And don't even come near the mountain. Don't even try to touch the side of the mountain, or you'll die. Why? Because the presence of God was there. It was holy, and God is holy. He can't have any sin around him whatsoever. So God came down, he warned the people, just stay away, because the only person I'm going to allow up here into this mountain is Moses, the leader. So Moses went up into the mountain, and he was there for 40 days and 40 nights. That's a long time to be up away from your friends and so on, and to be up in a mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. But he was up there, and when he came back down, he had 2 tablets of stone, and on them was written what we're going to talk about today. That's right, the 10 Commandments, okay? So here are the commandments, boys and girls. The first one here is found in Exodus 20, verses 1 and 3. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Now, I'm going to give you a special way today, boys and girls, that you can remember the 10 Commandments, okay? With your fingers. You know what? Our fingers can be used to help us remember them. I used to count. How many of you count on your fingers? Yeah, like in math, you know, when you're doing math. Yeah, I used to count on my fingers. Sometimes the teacher would say, now, can you tell me, can you count to 4? And I'd go, 1, 2, 3. And she'd stop me and say, can you count any higher? Because she knew I'd run out of fingers. And I said, sure, I can count higher. 1, 2, 3. I don't think that's what she meant. But anyway, so we can learn the 10 Commandments on our fingers. So what's the first commandment, boys and girls? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. I am the Lord thy God. Okay? We need to always put God first in our lives. And so we can show that by putting up one finger and on one hand. Let's all do that, okay? All you that are watching at home, one finger on one hand, okay? Only serve one God. Well, that was the first commandment. And next week we're going to talk about the second commandment a little bit more, but that was the first commandment. Then, in chapter 20, verse 4, God said, this was the second commandment, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, like birds or anything like flying around, or even an angel or something like that, or that is in the earth beneath, nothing down here, or that is in the water, either that you can see on top of the water, or like ducks and things, or things that are under the water, like the fish. You're not supposed to worship any of them. Did you know that there was a group of people called the Philistines, and they worshipped a fish god called Dagon? Yeah, a fish god, really? Sounds a little fishy to me. Anyways, so they would worship a god about a fish, because they lived really close to the shore of the Mediterranean Sea. Anyways, that's another story for another day. So the second, and it says, God said, you're not to bow down to them, you're not to serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. Did you know God is jealous? He wants you to serve only him. Could you imagine if you had made a pie, and you went and you know, your mom helped you to make this pie, and then you went and sat down, and all your maybe you have brothers or sisters, and they all said, oh mom, this is a great pie. And she said, oh, your brother made that. Oh mom, this is a great pie. After a while you'd be like, hey, didn't you hear mom? She said, I made the pie. She just helped me a little bit, but I made the pie. You'd be jealous about that, right? Because you're the one that worked in the kitchen and made that pie. Did you know that God was the one who made you? God was the one who made this whole earth. And when you sit there and tell other things, talk about other things that happened, how this earth got here, and you don't give God the glory, and you don't tell him, thank you, God, for all that you've done, God gets jealous about that. That's right. And of course he would get jealous if you're going to sit there and chop up a piece of wood and make something like, I don't know, a duck or a porcupine. Why anybody would want to worship a porcupine, I don't know. But anyway, to worship something other than God himself, because God made ducks and porcupines and fish and all those other things. And so, verse 6 says, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So the second one is worship only God. So once again, one finger, one hand. Remember, serve only God. And then number 2, thou shalt have no other gods before me. God is to come, number 1. But then the second one, put up the other finger on this hand and bow down to God. Okay? So we worship only God. Okay, so that's number 2. All right? Well, the next one, of course, is thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Did you know that many times we need to realize that we need to remember, does that look like a W? Right? See my 3 fingers? A W. We need to remember our words. Words. W-O-R-D-S, our words. So, once again, only one God, serve him. Only bow down and worship God. And watch your words. Okay? Watch your words. And by the way, you say, that's right, Mr. Slama. We should never say bad things. We should never say bad words. And we shouldn't even say other words that sound like bad words. That's right, boys and girls. But you know what? In taking the Lord's name in vain, do you know what means something else too? Look at these. These are attributes of God. God, for instance, is holy. He's loving. He's merciful. And when you say things like, God sure is a mean God, that's about as bad as swearing and saying bad things. Because you know what? God is not mean. He's holy, isn't he? He's not mean. You know, he's doing what's right. And so he is holy. He is also merciful. God always hurts people. No, he doesn't. He's sometimes very merciful to us. If you're alive today and still breathing, you of course are listening to me then, but that also means God is merciful, all right? So when you say things about God that are true, then you are taking the Lord's name in vain, okay? Along with other things like when you hear swearing and stuff. Be always careful about what you say and never take God's name in vain, all right? So that's number 3. We should watch our words, okay? Our words. Then the next one here is, so not only honor God with our words, but then remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt labor. Remember we talked about this last week? Remember when they were getting the manna? 6 days. On the 7th day, they weren't supposed to collect any of that food. And then the Bible tells us the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it you will do no work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservants, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and he rested on the 7th day. Where do we read about that, boys and girls? That's right. We read about that way back in the book of Genesis, right? Remember, in 6 days God made the heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested. Now, when he rested, that doesn't mean that God was like, I am so tired of creating everything. No, he wasn't tired. Remember, God didn't sit there and make things, you know. He didn't say, oh, this and there. No, remember, God, when he created, he just speaks. He says, let there be a sky, and there was a sky. Let there be fish in the sea, and there was fish in the sea. We can't do that, but of course, we're not God. And so, on the 7th day is when he stopped his creation, and he is just telling us we need to have a day set apart from the week where we just stop and think about God. That's why you're here today on Sunday, because you're here to think about the things of God and what he means to you, and you can think about that all the way through this next week, the next 6 days, all right? So, take time for God. You know what we do with number 4 for our fingers? Put up 4 fingers, everyone, and go like this. Doesn't a policeman do that sometimes? He wants you to stop. He'll go, stop. Halt. Stop. So what you do is you want to take 4 fingers and say stop and rest. Okay, so once again, what's number 1? Only one God. Number 2, thou shalt only worship and bow down to one God. Okay. Number 3, don't take the Lord's name in vain. Watch your words. Looks like a W. And number 4, stop and rest. Okay. So those are the first 4. What's number 5? Well, glad you asked. Number 5, we get the thing to work here. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. We are to obey our parents. To do that one, it's real easy. You don't have. My one son was in the Marines, and you know what? When you're in the Marines, and a sergeant comes up to you and tells you to do something, it's not like in school maybe where you say yes, okay, you know, or maybe with your mom and dad or something like that. But no, honoring your mom and dad means obeying them and giving them respect when you obey them. And so when my son was in the Marines and a sergeant came up to him and he asked him to do something or asked him a question, guess what he'd have to do? He'd have to take his 4 fingers and his thumb, go like this, and he'd have to go salute him. He'd have to go, yes, sir. Let's all try that. 5 fingers together. Yes, sir. So when mom or dad asks you to clean your room, yes, sir. Now, you don't necessarily have to say yes, sir, but that's how it helps you remember the 5th commandment. Obey your parents. Number 1 was what again? That's right. Only one God. Number 2, we only bow down and worship that one true God. Number 3, watch your words. Right. Number 4, what was that one again? Stop and rest. And what was number 5? Yes, sir. That's right. Well, let's keep on going here as we go through these commandments. And these are good commandments, not only for the people of Israel, but for us today. Okay? The next one was, thou shalt not kill, then thou shalt not commit adultery, and then thou shalt not steal. These were the next ones. Now, the 6th one means that we need to be careful that, and it says, thou shalt not kill. You say, Mr. Slama, I'll have no trouble with this one. I've never killed anyone. Okay. You know what? How many of you have ever said something like, Mommy, that boy over there made me so mad, I wanted to... Oh boy. You know, when we say those kind of words, or when we're mad at someone, to the point where if we look around and if we had something to throw at them, we would throw it at them. Oh, that's being bad. Like take a toy, I'm going to hit you. Oh, that's just as bad as... Remember what Jesus said? Jesus said, if you look at someone and hate them in your heart, you might as well have killed them. Okay, because hating someone is the first step in getting to the point of killing them physically. So we need to remember that we shouldn't have any bad thoughts about any other person. Okay, how do we remember that one? Well, now we got to use 2 hands. So you put up your one hand like this, all 5 fingers. Take your other finger like this, and like a little gun, right? Okay, thou shalt not kill. All right. Don't even think bad things about other people. All right. So thou shalt not kill. That's the next one. Then number 7, do not commit adultery. We are to obey God's design for marriage. For this one, you just hold up 5 hands again. 5 fingers, I mean 5 hands. For those of you who are Linda. And then you have 2 fingers on this one. That's the number 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what does this mean? We need to obey God's design for marriage. Marriage is a man and a woman, not 5 people. You're not going to marry one man with 4 girls or 2 girls with 3 cats or whatever else, okay? It's not just 5 something, it's only 2, right? Well, we've done a lot of them so far. Let's see if you can remember them. What's this one? That's right. Only serve the true God, one God. What's this one? Only bow down to Him. What's that one mean again? Use your words wisely. Do not use the Lord's name in vain. What's number 4? Stop and rest. What's number 5 again? That's right. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Obey your parents. What's number 6? Number 6 is we don't kill. And number 7, marriage is 2 people, not 5. Okay? We're almost done, everyone. What's number 8? Number 8 is respect other people's things. Number 8 is where we respect other people's things. So put up 2 hands, put your thumbs down like this. Do you know in some countries, they'll cut off your thumbs if you steal something? Ooh, but in this country, they put you in jail. Go like that again. In some countries, they cut off your thumbs, but in our country, they'll put you in jail, okay? So don't try to take something that belongs to someone else that's not yours. Do not steal, okay? Number 9. Number 9, we're almost done, everyone. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. What's that mean? That means don't tell lies. Does everybody know that 1 and 1 is 2? Does everybody know that 5 equals 4? You say, Mr. Slama, 5 is not the same as 4. 5 is 1 more than 4. That's right. So remember the 9th commandment, don't lie. 5 is not 4. Or you can say 4 is not 5. Okay? But that's the 9th commandment. And then the 10th commandment is, of course, that we need to remember, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. They sure live in a nice house. I wish I lived in a house like that. You're wanting something that someone else has. You don't want anything they have. You don't want another friend's toys. You don't want, all of these things. You don't want to be like this. Put all your fingers together and go like this, like you're grabbing for something. Yeah, I want what that guy's got. I want what he's got. No, don't be like that, okay? So remember these 10 commandments, boys and girls, and remember that we need to, it's kind of like this, boys and girls. The idea is that we need to remember that there is a special number. For instance, this is the number, this is the symbol. The symbol is pi. I love pi. I tell you what, pi is so good. I love pi. But that's not what this is talking about, okay? This isn't talking about pi like eat. This is talking about a number called pi. It has something to do with circles, okay? And you know what? The number pi starts off up here with 3.1549265398667. It has no end. And you know what, boys and girls? Many times, that's the problem we have. We say, Mr. Slama, those commandments, I can learn them on my fingers, but I don't know if I can obey them. Well, to be clean in our hearts, we would want to obey them. But you know what happens? All of a sudden, you leave Sunday school and junior church, and the next thing you know, your mom or dad say, when we get home, you need to pick up your toys. You're left on the floor. I don't want to. And the next thing you know, uh-oh, I disobeyed. I broke one of the commandments. And then you know when that happens, boys and girls, all you can do is you just have to confess it to the Lord, ask Him to forgive you, ask your mom and dad to forgive you, and go on, okay? Now, God knew that we couldn't keep the commandments. That's why He told us that He gave us the commandments. The law was given, Galatians tells us, as our schoolmaster. Why? So that we would get to the point where we would say, I can't do these things, God, by myself. And God says, that's why I sent my son Jesus. Because He was holy. He kept all the commandments. He never did anything wrong. And you know what? When you trust Christ as your Savior and He enters into your heart and life, then when your mom and dad say, time for you to go home and make sure you clean up your toys and you run, I don't want to clean. Then the Holy Spirit says to you, you need to obey. Remember the 5th commandment? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So you say, yes, Mom. Yes, Dad. I'll obey. The Holy Spirit, Christ inside you, is helping you to keep the commandments. Wow, isn't that neat? So we must always obey what the Lord wants us to do, and we can do it with the Lord's help. Okay? So not only did God give those 10 commandments to Israel, but that's why He gave them to us. Okay? And so, boys and girls, these are the 10 commandments. Oh boy. I am going to work on this again here. Okay, let's try it again. I got to see if I can make this Kool-Aid work. Ha-ha! Oh boy. I'll tell you what. I just can't make this work. But you know what the cool thing is? At least I'm all American, right? Red, white, and blue. I'll tell you, well, this is the problem. Somebody put flag. They're supposed to use these. Oh, my goodness. Oh. I'll tell you what, folks. I'm sorry, but I got to get going here. We got to get going here today. It's time for us to leave. I'll see you next week, though. I got some polywater probability proponents to possibly work on here, along with some exhaustive chemical figuring in pi. See you next week. Bye.